The Las Vegas Raiders drafted Powers Johnson to play guard, but I've always found that choice puzzling. They had Andre James as their starting center, and after drafting Johnson, it seemed logical to keep James at center and move Johnson to guard. However, during a recent game against the Kansas City Chiefs, Johnson stepped in as center when James had to leave the game for the final drives. Let me tell you, Powers Johnson impressed everyone. In my opinion, he's already one of the top 5 centers in the NFL. If he continues playing this position, he's only going to get better. We'll dive into some of his plays shortly, but what stands out about Johnson is not just his strength, but also his intelligence on the field. He processes the game faster than many players and reads plays with remarkable speed. In the 14 snaps he played, he helped keep the Raiders' quarterback, Gardner Minshew, protected, especially during passing plays. After watching those snaps, I truly believe Johnson deserves to be the Raiders' starting center for the rest of the season and beyond. If he continues this way, by the end of the season, people might even rank him as the second best center in the league. Powers Johnson was highly rated as a center coming out of the 2024 NFL Draft. In fact, he was one of the best center prospects I've ever seen. I've evaluated a lot of centers, like Tyler Linderbaum and Creed Humphrey, and I'd put Johnson right up there with the best. His talent is undeniable, and we got a glimpse of that in his short playing time against the Chiefs. Now let's take a closer look at the film. Andre James had an ankle injury during the game, but it's possible the Raiders are also recognizing that they need to make a change. Whatever the reason, I'm eager to dive into the tape and analyze Johnson's performance. I'm telling you, Powers Johnson is a top 5 center in the NFL. I know it sounds like a big statement, but you can see his potential on tape. Let's take a look at one specific play where he really shines. This was actually the first play Johnson was in for, and it's important to note that the offensive line's protection scheme was set to slide left. There's also Brock Bowers in the backfield, but he's going to motion out, which leaves us with a true 5-man protection. As soon as the ball is snapped, watch how quickly Johnson gets into action. The Chiefs are blitzing from the right side while the protection slides to the left. Johnson immediately recognizes the shift and moves to the right to help out. He and Jordan Meredith swap responsibilities, and you can see Johnson pick up a defensive tackle while Meredith takes on a blitzing linebacker. This kind of quick thinking is crucial in the NFL. If a center can't process the game fast enough, it can lead to a free runner towards the quarterback, like linebacker Nick Bolton here. But Johnson doesn't let that happen. He holds his ground, giving Gardner Minshew plenty of time to operate in the pocket. It's a fantastic example of what a strong center can do, and it results in a solid 7-yard gain. These little details are what make an offensive line successful. When the center can handle these basic responsibilities, it sets up the guards to do their jobs effectively too. Now let's talk about a fumble play. Johnson does a good job blocking his man here, but unfortunately, the defense ends up capitalizing on the mistake. The Chiefs bring too many players to block, and while Johnson anchors well against his defender, it just wasn't enough to stop the pressure from coming through. One thing that stands out during Johnson's snaps is how much cleaner the pocket looks, even with some backup players on the line. With a backup left guard and another player filling in, you can see that Johnson's presence helps stabilize things. He allows the quarterback to step up and find openings, which wasn't always the case before. Even when the running back is not chipping in to help block, the offensive line appears to perform better overall. I believe a big reason for this improvement is Powers Johnson. He's one of the best centers in the league, and if you watch the tape, you'll see similarities between him and established players like Creed Humphrey. People who followed the NFL draft recognize that Johnson was one of the best center prospects we've seen, right up there with Humphrey. So keep an eye on him. He's proving to be a game changer. You can really see Powers Johnson's skills on plays like this. It's all about the little details that keep the pocket clean. As soon as he snaps the ball, he quickly checks to see if the linebacker is blitzing or dropping back. Then, he helps out the right guard, bringing some physicality to the line and setting the tone for the play. Thanks to his efforts, the quarterback has a clean pocket and can get the ball out without pressure. In this next play, the Kansas City Chiefs bring a blitz again, and Johnson does a fantastic job picking it up. He effectively tosses the linebacker aside, allowing the play to develop. Unfortunately, this gain gets called back because of a penalty on DJ Glazer, who struggled against Chris Jones, as many expected. But once again, Johnson shines in his matchup against Nick Bolton, pushing him away with ease. The biggest improvement I noticed with the offensive line when Johnson was in is how much cleaner the pocket was. There wasn't much pressure coming from the middle, which is a huge deal for any quarterback. If this trend continues, it could be that the Raiders recognized Andre James wasn't performing well enough. Now let's look at another impressive play by Johnson. In this situation, the team is using five-man protection, which makes each player's role even more critical. Jordan Meredith, on the left, is a little slow off the snap, and the defensive tackle manages to get around him, which could have been a hit on the quarterback. But here's where Johnson steps up. He quickly shifts out of his gap to help Meredith, showcasing awareness that many centers simply don't have. This kind of teamwork is what makes him such a valuable player. Powers Johnson is physical, tough, and strong. If he keeps getting snaps as the starting center, I believe the Raiders' offensive line will improve significantly. In just a couple of weeks, they could have a top-5 center in the NFL. His ability to keep the quarterback clean and maintain a solid pocket is crucial. Now let's look at another play where Cody Whitehair struggles a bit. He sets up in a wide stance, but the defensive tackle quickly jumps inside, pushing him back. Whitehair gets pushed back a few steps before Johnson comes in to help. By stepping in, Johnson prevents the defensive tackle from collapsing the pocket from the inside. You can also see a lot of movement from the linebackers and safeties pre-snap as they shift around the line of scrimmage. Johnson processes this quickly and is able to assist Whitehair when needed. Picking up a blitz in the NFL is one of the toughest tasks, but Johnson's ability to handle these situations makes a big difference for the team. When you watch players like Powers Johnson, you really see the impact of small details in the game. He does a great job picking up on the Chiefs' complex blitzing schemes. On one play, he first checks the left side to see if a linebacker is coming, and when he realizes number 20 drops back, he shifts to help Jordan Meredith, who is in a one-on-one situation. It's not an easy task, but Johnson reacts quickly, allowing Meredith to get a slight angle on his assignment. And let's not overlook Johnson's physicality. Check out this play where he goes up against a defensive tackle. He straight up hip tosses the guy. That kind of physical play is what the Raiders want to see. If Antonio Pierce is serious about establishing a tough running game, Johnson should definitely be the starting center. Many analysts agree. Johnson was the best center prospect in recent drafts, even since Creed Humphrey. You can see it in his tape. He looks much more comfortable at center than he does at guard. Generally, playing guard might be a bit easier since you don't have to snap the ball, but for Johnson, center seems to fit him perfectly. Consider the dynamics of the offensive line. When defenders line up directly across from the guards, it can complicate their assignments. Johnson, however, often has more room to maneuver, allowing him to slide left or right to make plays. Plus, he's still a young player, only 3 years out of college, so he's only going to get stronger and better. I really believe the Raiders should move Johnson back to center permanently. He's showing too much promise to overlook. In fact, if they stick with him, they might have a top-tier center in no time. If you ask me, it would be smart to trade Andre James and fully commit to Johnson in that role. Even though James has a contract, I'd consider eating some of his cap hit if it meant getting a 4th-round pick in return. If a team isn't willing to give that up, I'd even accept a 7th-round pick, as long as they take on some of James's salary. The bottom line is that there's no reason to keep a player who consistently struggles. I could easily show you 40 snaps where James gets pushed back. He just hasn't developed the way the Raiders need him to. It's not just James, though. Other players like Jordan Meredith and Dylan Parham have had their struggles, too. But James has been the most consistent in his inability to hold his ground, which negatively affects the team's running game. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. We're covering all things Raiders here, and I'm genuinely excited about Jackson Powers Johnson's potential. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.